Hello, you are listening to the OmniTalk Fast Five, brought to you in partnership with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Firework, SPS Commerce, and Sezzle.
Number 2, Aldi has acquired approximately 400 stores in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and Mississippi through its acquisition of the Winn-Dixie and Harveys supermarkets banners. According to Chain Store Age, Aldi plans to evaluate which Harveys and Winn-Dixie locations will be converted to the Aldi format. It's not clear how many will actually convert, but Aldi's U.S. CEO Jason Hart said, quote, "For those stores we do not convert, our intention is that these continue to operate as Winn-Dixie and Harveys supermarket stores," end quote. And he also went on to add that the transaction supports our long-term growth strategy across the United States, including plans to add 120 new stores nationwide this year to reach a total of more than, 2,400 stores by year end. That was a quote. Chad, let's go back to you for this. How big is this announcement, and what does it mean for the grocery landscape?
All right, I'm going to put on my best Chris Walton hyperbolic statement.
Wow.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, do it.
The biggest headline in grocery in 2023.
Wow.
Wow. And I just did the insightful minutes with you guys, and we talked about Walmart's expansion of ESLs and Kroger and screens and digital tech. Like, I think Aldi expansion here, and in particular being on an acquisition path, is bigger, right? So
why?
If you're Publix, like, is there anything scarier to your market supremacy in the Southeast than Aldi, right? One of the fastest growing retail grocers making inroads in the Southeast. Like, no one's been able to do it. Right. Even Kroger's approach has been to do, through Ocado, doing like an e-com only type perspective. Yeah. Like they have had it, right? And so now Aldi gets this physical footprint, down in the Southeast, and an offering for a value-conscious consumer, which has not really been there in a material in a strong way. And as far as Publix nerves, right? Like, any loss in kind of the segment here will impact their own expansion plans, because, their cash cow of the Florida market is effectively what has the ability to, fund them going forward. And that could be tough to stomach. I think there's some probably real issues happening in the Publix boardroom. I think this is enormous.
Wow, fascinating. I was expecting you to say it was big, but I didn't expect you to say it was going to be that big. That's really interesting. Ann, what's your take on this?
I agree with Chad. I think this is a bold move by Aldi. I just was walking through one of the urban shopping centers here, and Aldi just went in and put a gigantic brand new store right next door to the Sainsbury's here on one of the high streets. I was talking with somebody yesterday who said Aldi is actually a real estate company that also happens to sell food. So they are going hard on acquiring stores. They're really trying to make sure that they have coverage anywhere and everywhere possible. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been in a Winn-Dixie. I've been to the ones in Florida, but let me tell you, there is nothing lacking there, or nothing that you will lose by losing those butcher departments, the seafood, the bakery departments, and converting to a full-on Aldi store. Really? Where you're just getting that in prepackaged goods. And I think that taking over, I know they're not taking over all the Winn-Dixies and converting them, but I think converting those two Aldis makes a ton of sense. Plus, I think then you have the option as Aldi to expand some of the other pilots you've been doing in the U.S. with curbside pickup, even with delivery with partners like Instacart, and using those stores, those larger Harveys and Winn-Dixie stores, as micro-fulfillment stores so that you can do more ship from store. I think that there's a lot of potential once they get into these markets. So I didn't think it was going to be as big as Chad, but I do think there's a ton of opportunity there.
Yeah, no, that's interesting too. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You think of Aldi, and there's the interesting about the grocery landscape too, which this could be a harbinger of more to come, Chad, when you put that hyperbole around it, it's really fascinating. There's all these regional gentlemen's agreements that are in throughout that landscape. And now you're saying, okay, well, we're going to let Aldi come into Florida now. We're just going to give over these existing brands. We're going to let you acquire them and see what happens. And as the rest of the regional grocers start to feel the pressure of doing grocery in the 2023, do we start to see more of those regional dynamics start to break down? Does Aldi become the benefactor in that breakdown later on? Who knows? But Ben, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I see it as a really exciting experiment for Aldi as well.
right? Winn-Dixie, double, if not more, the footprint.
Mhm.
And they, same with Harvey, right? So they are now entering in, growing in this new market. Okay, what are we going to do with double the space?
Yeah.
That's a humongous question. Are you going to sublease some of that? And then what is private label? So if you're 90% private label, they're 20% private label. I think it's a bit of a playing ground for them to say, all right, we're going to do this. We're seeing the opportunities. This is the next one. There's going to be more. Let's figure it out now. And then similarly on the back end, smart to not convert them all right away. And my assumption is it's figuring out the logistics. Is it going to go to their own distribution, just open that brand gigantic distribution center, figure that out slowly, and then perfect this model, and then go after some more. So I think it's fun for both those elements.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of my questions too. Do you guys at A&M see this as kind of just the political thing you say right now, where we are evaluating how many to turn over to the banner, but to the Aldi banner, but ultimately the goal here is to turn as many of them as possible and turn them into the Aldi brand? Do you think that's the play here? How do you guys look at that?
I would be surprised if it's not.
Yeah,
personally.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like I said,
Yeah.
Do you really need Winn-Dixie around still? I want somebody to argue the pro Winn-Dixie point, because
Careful, Ed. I had Wawa fans coming at me last time,
Well,
so you might
that's
get
fine.
some.
I
I
will-
might
I
get
will-
some Winn-Dixie
That's
lovers.
a good point. That's a good point. And so, I grew up in the Northeast. I worked in the C-store industry. Wawa is a great example. There is such an emotional connection
True.
to, Philadelphians, and now they've expanded all the way down to Florida as well, to the Wawa brand and its service. I don't have the data to back it up, but I can't imagine that the consumer emotional connection to Winn-Dixie is what it is for Aldi, because the Aldi emotional connection is very high.
Yes, people are buying Aldi clothes to wear around.
My grandfather,
on
96-year-old, still talks about Aldi.
Yes.
Every time I see him, I'm going to see him next weekend. He's probably going to talk about Aldi. I swear to God.
Aldi's. I think they call them Aldi's.
Oh,
The olds call it Aldi's.
They do, actually. He does. You're right.